Hi friends, welcome to Let's Crack UPSC CSE Optional, India's largest online learning platform, Unacademy. From Unacademy, you will be getting daily live classes, live tests, quizzes, structured courses, unlimited access to course material and videos on UPSC prelims and mains. Download Unacademy learning app, get daily live classes. This is Kiran Anishetti, faculty for Public Administration, Political Science, Polity, Issues in Governance and Ethics. I have done my MBA. I have done my MA in Political Science and Public Administration. Got qualified UGC NET in both the subjects, Public Administration and Political Science. I'm about to complete LLB. 4 times I took civils mains with Public Administration optional, each time scoring around 60% in Public Administration optional. I have more than 10 years of teaching experience in UPSC. I have taught in Telangana Government ST IAS Academy, Telangana Government Minority IAS Academy, UPSC IAS Academy Hyderabad, Challengers IAS Academy Hyderabad, Narayana IAS Academy Hyderabad, and Pen India IAS Academy Hyderabad. If you have any doubts or queries, you can contact me on my Telegram channel, that is Unacademy_Kiran Anishetti. Friends, today we are going to discuss very important topic, public administration, that is functions of executive enunciated by C.I.Barnard, Part-2. You can prepare with top 100 educators of Unacademy as Runal Patel, Roman Saini, Sudarshan Gujjar, etc. Unacademy is offering plus subscription in which the aspirant will be getting daily live classes, test series, unlimited practice, structured schedule. For 12 months, the subscription is 44,000. You use my promo code, you will be getting just at 39,600. For 24 months, it is 64,000. You use my promo code, you will be getting at 57,600. Academy has recently come up with new pattern of subscription, that is iconic subscription, which provides wonderful opportunity for the aspirant get personal guidance from the educator, that is faculty. Personal guidance is very essential to crack UPSC exam, because UPSC exam involves many intricacies. The aspirant needs to be guided personally by the educator or the faculty. If you use my promo code, you will get 10% discount. For 12 months, for 64,000, you will be getting just at 57,600. 4 months, for 99,000, you will be getting just at 89,100. Apart from 10% discount, you will be getting my personal guidance with regard to public administration optional, political science optional, general studies paper 2, that is polity, in governance and international relations, general studies paper 4, that is ethics, and most of the issues related to journalism. Apart from me, Academy will assign a team of experts who will be guiding you in their respective subject. In addition to these benefits, the aspirant under iconic subscription, he will be getting daily live classes, test series, unlimited practice, schedule, personal mentorship, daily, daily questions on mains, study planner, and personal feedback. We will be evaluating your answers. Functions of executive enunciated by Chester Bernard, Part-2. Bernard discusses about this novel concept in administrative thought, that is authority of leadership. He draws this idea from the writings of Mary Parker Follett. According to this concept, the authority is independent of the position of the incumbent. It is contingent on knowledge and ability of an individual. That means, irrespective of the position that is held by an individual, he holds authority. That means, people will accept his orders, opinion, his viewpoint because of his knowledge and ability. Because of his knowledge and ability. In this regard, I have observed one real life instance. I want to quote an anecdotal example. 99, 1999 general election. 1999 general elections for parliament as well as for the assembly of erstwhile United Andhra Pradesh. At that time, simultaneous elections were held for, for parliament and legislative assembly. Even now, of course, the separate Andhra Pradesh and Rayalaseema, they went to general elections along with parliament elections in 2019. Telangana went for early assembly election. Yeah. In 1999, in Lok Sabha general elections and Andhra Pradesh state, erstwhile United Andhra Pradesh state assembly general elections. At that time, Naxalism was in its peak in Telangana region, especially in northern Telangana districts like Warangal, Khammam, Karimnagar, Adilabad and Nizamabad. At that time, it used to be Herculean task on the part of police to hold general election. They had to undergo very uh, tedious process, very challenging task. They have to transport the election infrastructure after election in the ballot boxes or EVMs. They have to be again safely transported back to headquarters. It was so challenging, and it was very challenging in forest areas in Warangal, Khammam, Hyderabad. 21 years ago, I observed in my life a sub-inspector, ordinary sub-inspector, by using GPS. Now GPS has, what to say, has been possessed by everyone. Now if we open our smartphone, we will get GPS. But those days, 21 years ago, an ordinary sub-inspector, I'm sorry, I don't mean, my intention is not to undermine the position, but what I mean to say that the innovative technique that has been used by that middle rung police official, unfortunately, is not practiced by the top brass of police forces in Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh even now, which we are losing the precious lives of paramilitary forces and police forces. Really, in those days, in forest areas, Naxal used to waylay the police personnel when they visit one place. And while they are returning from that place in the same route in which they traveled, they used to waylay and they used to attack from the trees behind the coverage of trees, the forest. Guerrilla warfare technique, one of the guerrilla warfare techniques. Same thing happened in 2014 in Chhattisgarh, in which the senior leaders of Congress were killed, like V.C. Shukla, former Union Minister, Mahendra Karma, the former Cabinet Minister of Chhattisgarh government, and who created Salvajudam. And many police officials and police were killed in that massive attack by Naxals. Their, one of the techniques is that if police reaches to particular spot and if they are returning in the same route, they waylay, and they attack police. Police officer, he safely transported the election machinery to the polling center in dense forest area of Assam district near Chhattisgarh border. After having completed the election whole process, without traveling by routine road, the normal road, he took the what you say a small this thing footpath road, kacha pakka road, which is enough just to walk on foot. He took that route and without taking the normal road route, by using GPS those days, he took that Kacha Pakka road on foot and safely he reached his base camp. As the sub inspector expected, Naxal waylaid and they stopped the vehicle which was carrying civilian staff. Civilian lecturers, teachers will be posted to conduct elections. They waylaid, they checked whether any ballot boxes or EVMs were available, whether police personnel were there. After having convinced that no election machinery is found, they let off the bus. You see how that sub-inspector, by using GPS innovatively, avoided a huge loss to the police and election machinery. There could have been confrontation between the police and Naxals, and there would have been casualties on the part of police, and there were chances of the precious ballot boxes or EVMs could have been destroyed by Naxals. This is what Chester-Barnard refers the authority of leadership. Irrespective, he is not an IPS. He is not deputy superintendent of police. He is sub-inspector, middle rank police official. See how, by using innovative technique, generally even IPS officers will not be using this tactic and technique. How he avoided big confrontation. This is authority of leadership. What Bernard says, authority is independent of the position of the incumbent, is contingent on the knowledge and ability of an individual. It depends on the knowledge and ability of an individual. Chhattisgarh police, Jharkhand police and paramilitary forces, They can emulate this policy even now. That tactic that was used decades ago by a sub-inspector is worth emulating on the part of Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand police as well as paramilitary force. This is party of leadership. We are discussing the tactic used by sub-inspector for UPSC exam. We are accepting his tactic for IPS exam. So he is sub-inspector. We are discussing. It is because of the knowledge and ability of an individual. Chester Bernard discusses the important functions of executive, establishing and maintaining the system of communication in the organization. This is very, very important function of the executive to establish and maintain the system of communication in the organization. To establish and maintain the system of communication in the organization. Because through system of communication, we convey the objectives of the organization, strategies of the organization, the objectives of the organization, the decisions of the management. We can coordinate with the staff, a system of communication. Hence, establishing and maintaining the system of communication is of utmost importance. Securing essential efforts and services from subordinates by motivating them to exert themselves for organizational purpose. Securing essential efforts and services subordinates by motivating and exerting themselves for organizational purpose. It is very, very important on the part of the executive to secure efforts and services from his subordinates for the fulfillment of organizational purpose. For instance, you are an IPS officer working in Troubletown, Meerut district. Meerut is notorious for underworld activity, mafia, illegal weapons. So you motivate your subordinates, whole station house officers, deputy superintendent of police, and other lower run police personnel to achieve the organizational purpose. What is the organizational purpose of law and order administration? To maintain public order in the society. This is how the executive needs to secure essential efforts and services from the subordinate. Third important function of an executive, formulating and defining purposes and objectives. You formulate the purpose, the goal, and you convey that goal to your subordinates. You motivate your subordinates. You galvanize your subordinates to achieve the purpose, objective. Formulating and defining purposes and objective of the organization and conveying them to subordinates, motivating and galvanizing the subordinates to achieve organizational purposes, organizational objectives. Another very important contribution of Chester Bernard, he mentions about strategic factors in decision. Bernard says the decision maker should be able to distinguish between the factors which contribute to organizational success and the factors which are antagonistic to organizational goals. For this purpose, the decision maker should identify Strategic factors and limiting. Here, what Bernard says, the executive should be able to distinguish what are the factors lead to success of the organization and what are the factors which are antagonistic to organizational goals. Like you are chief executive officer of Panchayat Raj. What are your job is effective implementation of developmental and welfareistic programs in Panchayat. But what are the factors which lead to success of welfareistic programs in Panchayats? Like eliciting cooperation from rural citizens, motivating the employees of Panchayat Raj for effective implementation of programs and policies of the government, the welfareistic programs, eliminating corruption, eliminating bureaucratic tendencies, that is, mingling with the people, identifying the local felt needs. Even in a single district, one part may be barren, one part may be fertile, depending on the nature of the soil, describing crop pattern, prescribing the National Rural Employment, the works under National Rural Employment Guarantees. These are the factors that can lead to success of the organization, that is effective implementation of welfareistic and developmental programs. On the other hand, what are the factors that are antagonistic to of the organization? Corruption. Corruption is major stumbling block in welfareistic and developmental administration. Because of corruption, the fruits of welfareistic programs and developmental programs are not percolating down to the people. They are not percolating down to the people. Corruption, the feudalistic mentality and colonial hangover on the part of administrators. These are the factors which are antagonistic to success of developmental and welfareistic programs. This is what Bernard says. The executive, the decision maker should be able to distinguish the factors which are central to the success of the organization, on the other hand, which are antagonistic to success of the organization. In this process, the decision maker should be able to identify the strategic factor. Strategic factor. It leads to our success. For instance, strategic factors are those factors which are central to the success. Limiting factors are those we need to keep them at minimum level. For instance, if you take UPSC exam, prelims is limiting factor. It will not decide your success. Yet, you need to qualify. The score that you scored in prelims will not be calculated for your selection. It will be used only for screening of the candidates. What decides your success? Mains, the marks that you obtain in mains and the marks that you obtain in interview. Between these two, the marks that you obtain in mains, they play vital. So mains exam is strategic factor, prelims is the limiting factor. In mains itself, your success or your chances of scoring high in mains exam depend on your performance in three papers. your performance in three papers. As in that yesteryear's Bollywood picture, Sharabi, hero Amitabh Bachchan says, मेरा जीवन का तंबू तीन बंबुओं के ऊपर है. My life is depend on three pillars. In the same way, your success in mains, your score in mains depends on three papers, three factors. One is optional, second is ethics, third is journalism. In other papers, if you score around 40%, it's okay. But you need to score in these three, then you will score high. Keeping the score at average level in other papers, you needs to score more in your optional, ethics and journalism. Ethics, optional, journalists say in this context, they form strategic factor which decide our success. In other papers, we need to maintain the average score. That means the other papers are limiting factor. My intention is not to belittle or undermine the importance of other papers, but I want to make you to understand what do you mean to say strategic factors and limiting. In the same way, if you go to any posh and swanky corporate hospital, they maintain hygiene in such a manner that as soon as you enter into the hospital, you feel as if you are in five-star hotel. But that hygieneness, that cleanliness itself will not lead to cure of the patient. Yet they are required. Yet they are required. What is central to the cure of the patient? For instance, if a patient is suffering from cancer, brain tumor, getting operated and removing that tumor cells is central to curing the disease of the patient. Hence, the operation that can weed out the tumor, that can take out the tumor from brain, is central to the curing of the patient. In this context, the strategic factor is getting the patient operated, and the limiting factors are maintaining hygiene in the hospital. This is how Bernard says the decision maker in the organization should be able to distinguish strategic factors on one hand and limiting factors on the other. Strategic factors on one hand and limiting factors on the other hand. What says organizational decisions will be more logical and rational than individual decisions. Mr. Bernard says organizational decisions will be more logical and rational than individual decisions, as the former is result of deliberation, calculation, and analysis. Mr. Bernard says the decisions taken on the part of the organization as a whole will be more logical and rational than that of individual, because former is result of deliberation, consultation amongst the managers, the executives, the technicians, experts, calculating the pros and cons, analyzing the situation, external environment. Because of these reasons, the organizational decisions will be more rational and logical. This is how Bernard discusses organizational decisions and individual. Now we will discuss principles of communication enunciated by Chester Bernard. Bernard says these principles of communication ought to be observed to maintain authority in the organization. These principles of communication ought to be observed to maintain authority in the organization. What are they? We will discuss one by one. First, the channels of communication should be definite. That means the channels of communication should be overtly defined by the organization itself. How the employees are going to be conveyed by emails, by WhatsApp group messages, by telephoning, by messaging, by sending text messages. This is how the various channels of communication that are going to be used will be announced beforehand by the organization itself. The organization itself. Channels of communication different. Everyone in the organization must have a definite formal channel of communication. Everyone in the organization, they should have a particular formal channel of communication, because informal communication channels play a vital role. Necessary information may be communicated amongst the employees. Rumors may be mongered through informal communication channels. Hence, everyone in the organization must have a definite formal channel of communication. A definite formal channel of communication. The line of communication must be as direct and short as possible. The line of communication must be as direct, as short as possible. The line of communication must be as direct, as short as possible, because the longer the communication channel, the level of indirectness in the channel, chances of distortion of communication will be more. The longer the channel of communication, for instance, A is the head of the organization. Under him B, under him C, under him D, under him E. If A wants to communicate with E, it should be as direct as possible. Otherwise, the message that the A wants to convey to E may get distorted because of the intermediaries, because of more number of intermediaries. That's why Bernard says the channel of communication should be as direct as possible. As direct as possible. Competence of persons serving as communication centers should be adapted. What do you mean to say communication centers? These are communication centers. B, C, D, A. A, B, C, D. They should be competent enough. The channels of communication should be competent enough. Competent enough means they should be able to communicate the exact communication. They should be able to convey the exact communication that they want to communicate. Fifth, the complete formal line of communication must be usually used. The complete formal line of communication must be usually used. The formal communication that we have, for instance, if Chief Secretary wants to issue orders to Tehsildar, so he should follow the formal line of communications such as the district collector. Then the district collector conveys to revenue divisional officer, the deputy collector. From deputy collector, the communication will be conveyed to Tehsildar. Hence, the complete formal line of communication must usually be used only in case of any emergency, in case of any exigencies that can be skipped. But in general, the entire formal line of communication must usually be used. The line of communication must not be interrupted while organization is functioning. The communication line must not be interrupted while organization is functioning. Every communication must be authenticated. This is very, very important. Every communication should be authenticated by the communicator. For instance, Chief Secretary wants to send a communication to district authority. That order or that communication ought to be authenticated by the Chief Secretary himself. That means signature and stamp and other format. So these are the principles of communication according to C.I.Barnard, which ought to be followed, for effective functioning of the organization, to maintain the authority in the organization. Thank you, friends. Thanks a lot. Please subscribe to Unacademy YouTube channel. Share and like the videos. Use my promo code capital KIRAN and get 10% discount. If you have any doubts or clarifications, you can contact me through my Telegram channel. That is Unacademy_Kiran Anishetti. Thank you, friends. Thanks a lot. See you in the next session.